for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak, and many thanks. The hashtag on X is Citizen Daybreak. The SMS code is 22422 at Citizen TV Kenya and at Ayub Abdikadir. On my far right is Dr. Barak Muluka, Leadership and Communications Consultant. Good morning, Dr.
Morning, Ayub. How are you?
Lovely having you here on the broadcast.
Good to see you again.
And many thanks for the theory that we had developed here, and you wrote about it extensively yesterday on Sunday.
Nelson right here.
Council Harvey, good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
A pleasure having you here on the broadcast.
Always.
Asante, the 49th President of the Law Society of Kenya. Kefa Ojijo joins us also this morning, an advocate of the High Court. Good morning, Kefa.
Morning, Ayub.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Executive Director, the Center for Multi-Party Democracy, is also with us here, Franklin Mukwanja. Good morning.
Good morning, Ayub.
Pleasure
for having me.
Having you here on the broadcast. A lot has happened while you were away, Franklin. There is now politics without the presence of the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. Today, the party is convening a very important meeting that will be chaired by his brother Oburu Oginga that will take, of course, many things into focus, including the future of the party that was left behind by the former Prime Minister, and also the exit which lays bare Kenya's political warriors and parasites, as yesterday extensively written by Dr. Barak Muluka. Let's begin in that regard, Dr. and coming to you first. This is ideally exposed, is it, a political class that rarely subscribes to ideology and policies?
Well, there's always an ideology, regardless of what kind of guise it does take. Many years ago, President Daniel Arap Moi told us that he understood only one ideology, which he called the Tumbo ideology. And that Tumbo ideology continues to dominate the leadership space in this country. And if you talk about the parasitic situation that Nelson floated, and we have been developing it in other spaces, you are talking basically of Tumbo. It doesn't matter that it's the Tumbo of a little parasite that has got to find a host somewhere. And all these dynamics that we are witness to, including the ODM Central Committee meeting that's going to take place today, which has been dubbed by some as a crisis meeting, but which the Tumboists calling a routine meeting. It's about the self-same concerns, self-serving interests, where, you know, as the saying goes, that when the tide is low, we get to know who has been swimming naked. And so those who have been swimming naked, the moment of truth is here. They are looking for a leaf to cover the vital parts that must be covered, and therefore that they must remain on course doing that which they have always done. And for that matter, ideology is there, only that it's not an ideology that serves the public.
Okay. Franklin, before I come to you, and Nelson and also Kefa, let's listen in to the Principal Secretary at the Ministry of Education ahead of the examinations that are set to begin today, that will focus on millions of learners who will be transiting, and this is over 2 million of them who today will be sitting the Kenya Primary School Education Assessment and the Kenya Junior School Education Assessment ahead of transition to senior school. Here's what he's saying.
Properly. So I want to tell the nation that as a ministry, as a State Department, we have done our best to ensure that everything is ready. All the learners have been prepared. All the examinations have been prepared. They are ready, and this morning we are distributing them to different centers here in Kibra. I want to say that we call upon all our stakeholders, all our teachers, invigilators, to ensure that they administer these examinations professionally. We don't expect anything short of professional administration of 2025 KJSEA, KAPSEA, and KCSE examinations. We are confident that the learners are prepared, and we have done everything that is required to ensure that all our learners get the best possible opportunity to do their examinations. I also want to confirm that we have released all the monies that are required to ensure that there's smooth examination administration. We gave out, the government provided all the money for all the candidates, and nobody should have any excuse whatsoever why they should not be facilitated to do these examinations. For Kajasea, it is historical. It is the first time in the history of this country that our learners are sitting for this exam, which will culminate into ensuring that we have a smooth transition from junior school to senior school. Our learners are prepared. We have enough spaces in senior school, grade 10. We have 2.4 million spaces against 1.1 million learners. So we have prepared everything. We have prepared a digital system to ensure that there's smooth transition. And I want to assure all our learners that they will get a space in senior school. But for today, we are very confident. We have asked all our sub-county directors, county directors to ensure that they administer and supervise these examinations with utmost professional conduct. I also want to confirm that we have sent capitation to all our schools around the country. So there is no excuse whatsoever why a school should complain or not have received the money, particularly those who have complied with the school data verification exercise. We have sent the money to all the schools. All the schools have confirmed they have received their money, and we are confident that they have all the materials and all the resources required to ensure that exams are conducted professionally. Thank you.
And that is Professor Julius Bitok speaking in Kibra here in Nairobi ahead of the rollout of the assessment for the millions of learners who will be starting the assessment today across the country, and all the very best from the Royal Media Services to the learners who will be transiting to senior secondary school. Back to you, Franklin. Daktari points out that those who have been swimming naked will be exposed given the nature of the political waters, given Odinga's departure from our political arena. But also, going forward, largely it's not going to be a smooth ride, is it? There will be definitely turbulence politically across the arena.
Certainly. You know, a big tree has fallen, and therefore the birds and their nests are scattering. And you would want to imagine in a moment that a party like ODM has, speaking of course from a very informed point of view, as I work with political parties, and ODM is one of my member parties, structurally you would say, you would assume they are strong, they have the rules, they have procedures on paper. But I do not think that those rules, structures, and procedures now matter. The instinct for survival has kicked in, and this instinct for survival goes beyond the party and the members of ODM. This survival involves the survival of the country's leader in President William Ruto. Yeah. That possibly his strategy was very much anchored on the partnership with Raila Odinga, and his absence demands that he begins to maneuver, and therefore he must defeat the structures, must defeat the procedures and the rules for him to be able to have a proper firm control of what is going to happen in ODM. And it's not just that. You can see that even the other political parties like KANU have to be quickly conscripted in to make sure that the survival instincts is actually obtaining. And this is the challenge that Barack is pointing at. We have political parties that sometimes I shudder to say, are they really political parties? Because they are something else other than ideological. And the state of our political parties should be clearly looked at acutely from the frame of the state of our economy, the state of our human rights, the state of our education, the state of our healthcare. You expect that political parties have actually very fundamental positions on these issues, that then they compete on the ideas to tackle these societal challenges. But the fact that we're struggling tells you clearly where the state of our political parties is. Yeah. I would classify them into three. The charismatic ones that are largely dominated by a very strong leader like Raila Odinga, with that strong ethnic backing, with ethnicity as the currency, you know, of the political party, and of course with the advent of coalitions, you know, enabling the various ethnic cabals to cut deals and strengthen each other. And then the catch-all, you know, the ones that will pick on anything that is trending and becomes their real idea of how they would want to look at things and govern. And a majority of them are actually splinter you know, groups, and they have not differed in terms of principle, but in terms of, you know, interests. It's not about the logic, it's not about the empathy or the ideals, but the interests that largely drive them. And these splinters have become so many because the intra-party systems are deliberately weak or deliberately weakened, as in the case of ODM, where the survival instincts kick in, and therefore all the issues that you have worked on, the structures that ODM has possibly worked on, and they have populated those structures most recently with their party internal party elections. But that all now does not seem to be something quite, you know, useful. All the procedures, all the rules will be thrown out of the window just to make sure that let us survive first and become sober later to discuss more significant issues.
Council Harvey, Franklin mentions the quest for survival, and here who survives on the other, because the president has already claimed a stake in the ODM party. And the ODM party, according to some members of the leadership, Simba Arati and co, are welcoming the president to vie on an ODM party ticket and come back to the party that he helped form in the aftermath of the referendum in 2005. So, seems a case of double political dilemma.
Well, Ayub, your question is who survives? I think the survivor here is dependent on the fitness, survival for the fittest. It cannot be said that President William Samoei Ruto is any way advantaged than Elisha, than Wanga, than Khalwale. They are all struggling to survive. And much as he may appear slightly fitter than the rest of the other warriors and parasites, I think what we need to look at is the transient nature of these political formations right now. They are so temporary, they're worse than plastic paper wrapping, because they tend to shift every day. And I foresee a situation whereby William Samoei Ruto will run for president in 2027 on a coalition of ODM and KANU. That is most probable. Because of all the existing political parties, these two seem to be most elaborate in structural formation. And if he had a keen eye, his overtures towards ODM at the beginning of this year is indicators that he will come back to ODM and expel Edwin Sifuna and other belligerent owners of ODM was premeditated and deliberate. You can see the overtures he has made towards KANU to the extent of ensuring that the owner of KANU does not run for for office. Now compare this with the overtures of Daniel Arap Moi in 1992 and beyond. Moi tended to have permanent relationships, so that if he needed to reach out to individuals in Ford Asili or Ford Kenya, he will be deliberate. He will ask that they resign their positions in parliament and in those parties. He will accommodate them in Kano, deliberately come to Likuyani and campaign for Apili Wawire, walking all the way from Nangili Market up to Likuyani to ensure that he wins. Permanency, you understand? The person who suffers most from this transient nature of this formation that we are seeing is the people, because it requires a lot of public funds to undertake these transient enterprises, as opposed to the permanent overtures that were taken by President Daniel Arap Moi. So whoever is fit in this contest is the one that will survive. I foresee many people from Rift Valley running on a Kanu ticket. I foresee many people in Luo Nyanza and Western Kenya struggling to run on an ODM ticket after the fusion of ODM and UDM. But it will be a struggle for the fittest.
Okay. And Keva, you have been in the political rooms where these discussions have been happening. But first thing is first, how is then politics without the former Prime Minister and now all these events happening in so many ways affecting the political direction? For instance, the paper today writes that on page number 8, Ruto, Uhuru and Gideon will share a stage, a high-profile one to be hosted in Nairobi that will deliberate on Africa's democratic future that brings many stakeholders from across the continent to Nairobi to talk about the continent's democratic future, and will also be attended by former Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo. Seems it's all now scattered across the political divide, and consolidating all this will be an uphill task.
Exactly. And Ayub, with Raila missing in the picture right now, we are going to see, going forward, we're going to see a lot of leaning towards the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta. We're going to see President Ruto leaning a lot towards the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta. You noticed what really interested the masses when at the Nyayo Stadium. A lot of cheers, the applaud that Uhuru Kenyatta got when he was addressing the nation. This could mean two things, therefore. Number one, either it was what we call the social impeachment to the president right now. People telling him, you know what, we love the former president more than you. He did us good more than you're doing. So you need to amend your ways. And that definitely now start throwing him to start forming this, tight relationship, association with the former president. Number two, it could mean what one of the psychologists, Lotto Masi, says, that human beings have what we call the emotional power. And this emotional power cannot be sustained. It has to be transformed. And he studied the human mind and also the couple's relations, and realized that where a loved one, when a person loses a loved one, the emotional energy cannot be bestowed in them. It has to be transformed. And normally it's transformed to somebody who was closer or a friend to the deceased. And we could see this probably from the love that people had for Baba, for Raila. We could see that the way we saw Uhuru had stood with him, the way we saw Uhuru has been his best friend, the president who fronted him to become the next president, people felt that this love could now be channeled to Uhuru Kenyatta. And Ruto will therefore definitely look for an advantage to attach himself to that love. Over the past 1 week, Ruto has been enjoying what we call a toddler ice cream effect. You see, many ice cream vendors in Europe towards the end of the year 2000 and 2002, decided to change the tactic on how they would sell ice cream. They moved from the subways and the markets and went targeted clearly where the children institutions are, the schools, the kindergartens and stuff like that. The idea was not that because children were their best clientele, but they knew that if one child could throw tantrums and manipulate the parent to buy ice cream, then the other parents will definitely find themselves just buying ice cream for their kids without them asking. And that is what we have started seeing in the ODM. We have started seeing the effect of some MPs now starting saying we've shifted our allegiance to the, the president now. We want the president to come back. Even other people, Ruto expect that to happen, even to other MPs that have not officially even declared him to be part of the ODM. And so he's been riding on this, and now he's going to look for a way in which how he can capture ODM. I don't think he's going to come back to ODM, but he's going to have influence in ODM. And he can only do that also when he sets now the close relationship with the former President Uhuru Kenyatta. So we are going to see a lot of entanglement between Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM and UDA in between going forward.
Yeah. Daktari, when you listen to Governor Simba Arati calling on the president to rejoin the party, is it an admission, and this is a feeling shared by other ODM party members, is it an admission that the center has lost a stable factor in Odinga and therefore they need the presence of the president there, and perhaps to use the symbolic presidential power to contain the forces that seem to be pushing the party from within?
I'm rather doubtful that that could be the scenario. Simba Arati has belonged so far to the strand of ODM that has been hostile to the so-called broad-based government. I must interrogate myself and ask whether he speaks out of genuine persuasion that that's the way to go, or whether he speaks with tongue in cheek. And I would suppose that it is the latter, on account of the fact that Ruto has been talking about not allowing ODM to go to the opposition. He's behaving as if he's in charge. He has even told Sifuna that I'm a founder member and we could expel you, among other things that he's saying. And so, speaking tongue-in-cheek, Simba Arati, who has been solidly against the broad-based government, would be telling him, if you find ODM so alluring, why don't you just cross over and forget about UDA? Then you could run on the ODM ticket. I see that there are going to be very many things. Let me say there are likely to be very many things happening within ODM, including fallout. I do not see that the warriors, as we have called them, are going to cave in. They probably will be quite ready to migrate to other spaces. They will not migrate voluntarily. They will wait for somebody to attempt to expel them from the party. And I can assure you, and Franklin is here, that it's easier said than done, this thing of expelling people from parties. I was Secretary General of the defunct ANC, and we had our own rebels, people who would not toe the party line. And we attempted many times to expel them. And it was an uphill task. And ODM itself previously attempted to expel people. It was virtually impossible. I think Jubilee almost succeeded. But we are also closing in to the elections. So these people are going to stay put, drag them through the political parties disputes tribunal, drag them through the High Court, through the Court of Appeal. And indeed, these things can go all the way to the Supreme Court, by which time the elections are here. And they're going to be mining the controversy and the litigation for political mileage. I think President William Ruto has his goose cooked. And what we are seeing is an individual who could drown clingingly clutching on straws.
Okay.
And in the end, we are going to likely move from the parasitic space to the saprophytic space. You know, they are also saprophytes, the ones that are the pests that thrive on dead matter.
Okay. So when we get back from the break, Franklin and Kefa and Nelson will explore this more, and the battle for the soul of the nation around the needs of the people, as Raila Odinga has always fashioned the party, but now his absence kicking off a storm within the party ahead of today's very crucial meeting, and the laying of the claim that including the president has laid on the party. And also what happens to also Nelson, to Maraga and company, who are also hovering around the political environment, plus what this also portends for President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Jubilee Party, who has also wrestled back the party after an attempted takeover after the elections of 2022. Stay tuned after the break on the broadcast.